Paavo Järvi, you've been percussionist. You are a conductor, a great conductor of great orchestras, of great symphonies, Bruckner and Mahler. Have you ever played chamber music?
I have. The closest I've come to chamber music is when I was playing four hands with my father when I was a kid, playing oddly enough Haydn symphonies, but from a score and with my father, four hands. Some things also in the percussion. When I was a percussionist, there was some things percussionists love this kind of ensembles and all kind of special pieces written for percussion ensembles. So that's as close as I ever get to chamber music.
The Hába Quartet played chamber music by Hindemith. What is your access, your link to Hindemith?
My access to Hindemith actually is my father, believe it or not, because he was somebody who always kept playing Hindemith at home. He conducts Hindemith quite a bit. And he's somebody who always was complaining, maybe is the wrong word, but always wondering why is Hindemith having a reputation as a kind of a boring composer, or somebody who doesn't have enough range, dry, academic, and there is, if you listen to a lot of recordings or a lot of music by Hindemith, one can see that it can be done quite academically, but in the hands of the right people and in the hands of the people with some fantasy, it can come alive. It can be something that is extremely exciting, and also Hindemith has a sense of humor. Hindemith has it doesn't come out of nowhere. Hindemith is a succession, is one of the links in the old great German lineage of music, starting from Bach, and Hindemith is somebody who is not, let's say, like Messiaen is in France, who just somehow created his own language, and you can still think, okay, I can hear Debussy, but Hindemith, you can hear everything. You can hear Haydn, you can hear all the classical repertoire. It is a matter of how it's done. It's a matter of. My father was the person who always encouraged to kind of look behind and underneath the text and use your imagination.
How it's done is an important thing. During rehearsals, you often say, "Listen to each other," or chamber music attitude. What does that mean? What is your link to chamber music?
Well, that's pretty much means exactly what you hear. Is that a chamber music attitude means what? Means exactly what you saw now. People listening to each other, and also knowing who is playing what. So if somebody has an important line, then everybody else gets out of the way, and then they know when to come back on, and then he knows when to listen. And so it's a question of not only playing your own part well, but also being able to understand or know what it is that others are playing, and also know how to react to them. So, these attitudes are very simple, very human. If you have a person who always talks and doesn't listen, it's not an interesting partner. A person who only listens and doesn't talk is not interesting either. But knowing when to listen, when to say something, when to be incisive, when to give way, it's all very human behavioral sort of patterns, and chamber music attitude is just that. Knowing, listening, and then taking charge when necessary.
So playing chamber music is important for the musicians in an orchestra like Frankfurt Radio Symphony, in a great orchestra.
Of course.
It's important for playing great symphonies?
Exactly, because it is exactly the same attitude that playing a quartet. The same attitude should actually be used while playing a Mahler symphony.
How can music remain fresh? How can one discover the same piece of music over and over again?
It is possible if you have enough insight, or if you have enough energy, and if you have enough curiosity, if you care enough to find something individual and new in the piece. But I think very often it's not a question of doing something new to the piece. It's a question of attitude, because we live in a situation where we all go to work every morning. orchestra players more than me because I have a little bit of a gypsy life, but orchestra players go to work every morning and they have families, they have everyday situation, they have their children and they have their normal human lives, and how you create a situation where you go to work and make something very exciting happen, that takes a little bit of thinking, because it's not so easy, but it's not work. It's not like you're going to, be a bank teller or something, and you give banking transactions every day. This is something else. You have to somehow create or put on a very creative attitude, and it's nobody's superhuman. We are all people who have a relationship with the real life, and to create something which requires fantasy and a little bit of giving from yourself, that takes dedication. It's a very hard thing to do 30 years in a row.
Isn't it a balancing act, on the one hand, to be a modern and innovative conductor or musician, and on the other hand, not to forget the own roots, the roots of the music and the good tradition?
It is a balancing act. Actually, one needs to know the tradition, and I have all the respect for tradition. I mean, if you look at, for example, Wiener Philharmoniker, and they say they know how to play Mozart, I am 100% sure that during the Mozart's time they were not playing Mozart the same way as Wiener Philharmoniker. So tradition is an evolving, ongoing thing. It is not something that one can simply say, well, we know how to play Beethoven. If we all know how to play Beethoven, why did people like Honencourt and Norrington and Gardner all of a sudden destroyed our confidence in the old traditional way of doing it? Because there is not one way of doing it. And it's a question of keeping an open mind and not letting yourself be too satisfied with yourself.
What makes an artist, a musician, an orchestra, or an ensemble like Hába Quartet into something special? Is it the music? Is it the audience? Is it the way to perform?
I will say something that maybe a lot of people will disagree with, but I think that the one thing that makes all the difference anyway, not only with the musicians in the classical field, but in any other pop music, rock music, writers, painters, the one thing that makes a very good organization into a great organization is blind ambition. If you want something badly enough, that means you will work harder and you will be dissatisfied enough to get to this, because this last 5% is the one that is basically unreachable.
And for me, as a part of the audience, sometimes there are magic moments. I think one can't schedule these moments. But are there ways to support oneself, or in an orchestra, an ensemble, to bring such moments?
You live for those moments, and you're lucky if they present themselves, and you work and try to do things, and sometimes you try all concerts. And in my case, I do so many bad concerts because I try something and it does, at the end it was just that close, but it doesn't. Sometimes you don't try and you start feeling, oh yes, it's happening, and it's just happening, and it works. And why? If we would have the recipe for this, then we would have the recipe for greatness. But it doesn't. There is no real understanding of how it works. You just try for it all the time.
Do you know the last
yes.
CD of the Hába Quartet with Smetana and Janacek? Are there magic moments on this record?
I listened to the record. They're a very good record. Yes, there are magic moments, and I like the repertoire very much. It's a very interesting idea to put something like this together. I wonder where this idea come from, the Czech music.
Paavo Järvi, I wish you, the Frankfurt Radio Symphony, the Hába Quartet, many, many magic moments in the music and in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.